they're performing this activity. And then these are some external views from some of the cameras mounted on the exterior. And as you'll notice, these external views are sped up. Today's relocation activity began at about 6 a.m. Central Time with the detachment of the HTV from the zenith or space-facing port of the Harmony module. It's taken several hours to reach this point. Again, now they've completed the second stage capture, the reposition now on the Earth-facing port.
Hey, follow, even though you're standing right next to me, you have a go for SSRMS brakes on/safing, and you can ungrapple the element per the timeline.
We're turning now to some real-time depictions of the robotic arm activity and the relocation of HTV2. As you've heard, we're completing those installation steps. The second stage capture, now the A-bolt's also completed, and the team now giving the go for the ungrapple of the space station robotic arm.
For exercise.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I understand that no restrictions for the rest of the day.
That's affirmative. No more constraints.
Okay. I see we're running a little bit ahead of the schedule. If you can let me know when we are go for the, I guess the hatch to latch, and then followed by the vestibule pressurization.
Will do.
I understand it'll be a little while.
The crew continuing along. They're in the mid-afternoon of their crew day, and as you've heard there from Commander Scott Kelly, slightly ahead on the timeline. All of the relocation activities going smoothly. This relocation of HTV, the primary focus of today's activities, and all nearing the end of those procedures. You also heard they were go for exercise, and the team also here resuming the use of the thrusters on the Russian segment. Both of those activities had been put on hold during these delicate robotic activities, and especially the install of the HTV in its new position. But all of that now nearing completion, and activities resuming on board.
Station Houston on 2 for Scott.
You're seeing a live view from the International Space Station. This is a view from the cameras mounted on the exterior of the spacecraft, specifically the port side, looking back towards the U.S. segment, and largely in view here is the large Japanese Kibo module to the right of your view. The HTV now in its new position on the Earth-facing port, and the space station robotic arm in view, but about to be ungrappled from that module. All the activities going smoothly. You can also see passing underneath part of the Southern Ocean. The vehicle is just traveling from orbital night and minutes away from crossing over the termination line to orbital day as it makes its way over the Southern Pacific Ocean. The spacecraft is traveling at about 200 miles overhead and traveling 17,500 miles per hour. This is Mission Control Houston. You're seeing a live view from the International Space Station. The vehicle just crossing over from orbital night to orbital day as it's making its way over the Southern Ocean, and will continue on a northeasterly track over the Southern Pacific Ocean and the southern portions of Mexico. On board, the crew is in the mid-afternoon of their crew day, all of the activities going smoothly, and the focus primarily being the relocation of the HTV2 to its new location, shown here on the Earth-facing port of the International Space Station. That activity kicked off at about 6 a.m. Central Time with the detachment of the HTV from the Zenith port on the Harmony module. That activity continued smoothly for the next several hours, and just within the last 30 minutes or so, the crew has wrapped up with the relocation, the installation now to its new port, and the completion of the mating and the various phases of capture in the Bolt installment. They're in progress of the ungrappling of the space station robotic arm, and will continue with other configurations of that module now in its new place, and eventually the hatches to be opened. That HTV is scheduled for unberthing for the final time on March 28th, when it will then be released and deorbited the following day. While the activities continue smoothly for the on-orbit crew, on the ground, the team is still wrapping up after the successful space shuttle mission of STS-133. The 133 crew of Commander Steve Lindsay, pilot Eric Bowe, and mission specialist Alvin Drew, Michael Barrett, Tim Copra, and Nicole Starr are in transit to the Kennedy Space Center, from the Kennedy Space Center to the Johnson Space Center, where they will be highlighted in a welcome home ceremony to take place at Ellington Field. That event is open to the public and slated to begin at 4 p.m. Central Time. The STS-134 crew is also making preparations for their upcoming shuttle mission, with Space Shuttle Discovery back in its processing facility to begin deservicing, and its final decommissioning endeavor is poised to roll out tonight at the Kennedy Space Center, weather permitting. It will roll out to Launch Pad 39A for its final flight next month. First motion is scheduled to begin at 7 p.m. Central Time. This is a live view, a close-up of the space station robotic arm, now ungrappled from the HTV, and they will slowly commence with a procedure to slowly back away that end effector from the HTV. All of today's robotic activities are being overseen by the flight control team, but specifically the robotics officer here in the flight control room. Serving in that role for this Orbit 2 shift is Laura Lucier, again serving as what's called the robo position, representing the robotics activities. She's further supported by a back room of specialists, all who've worked heavily in advance and trained with the crew for these specific activities, marking a successful relocation this morning, as they've now completed that relocation and installation of HTV.
Houston station for robotics. HTV relocation is complete.
Station Houston on 2 for robotics. Great work today. And with that, you are go to complete the DCP cable disconnect activities, as well as the UOP.
Copy, we'll put it in work. And copy, put it in work. I appreciate it. Thanks for all the support.
That the words from European Space Agency astronaut Paulo Nespoli, who has been working shoulder to shoulder with NASA astronaut Catherine Coleman from the cupola as they were using the robotic arm, Canadarm2, to relocate the HTV from the space-facing port of Harmony now to the Earth-facing port, where it will remain until it's unberthed from the space station permanently for its deorbiting later this month. Apollo there confirming that the HTV relocation activities are now complete, as you saw in that last view, and you can see in this one as well, the robotic arm ungrappled from the HTV. The crew will continue with some final task, but in large part that HTV task complete. The crew now in the mid to late part of their afternoon of their crew day. They'll continue with some activities, including exercise, which had been put on hold during these robotic activities, but now they can resume with that activity. They'll wrap up their day with a daily planning conference, tag up with the flight controls of the various mission control centers supporting their activities, and then they'll have some off-duty time for their evening meal and some personal time before crew sleep, scheduled at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. That wraps up our ISS update for today. We'll resume with Space Station update tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central Time. This is Mission Control Houston.